Hello, wonderful people, and thank you for joining us tonight. Joining us on Telling Tales, where we do tabletop roleplay stuff. It's Monday night, and that means we're playing Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. Although the first big topic of the evening, soon it will no longer be Monday Night Vampire, but Tuesday Night Vampire. As of 2 weeks' time, we'll be playing on Tuesday evenings at 8 o'clock GMT, the same time, rather than Monday. So next week will be the final week where we play Vampire on a Monday, mainly, honestly, to avoid clashing with the rather pro-looking... I've forgotten the name of their stream now, which is terrible. Blood on the Thames. Blood on the Thames. That's the stream. And it's the only, basically, seems to be one of the only big UK-based and UK-set Vampire the Masquerade streams. And we set up right slap over the top of it. So we thought we'll shuffle aside. We're the little fish at the moment, and best to avoid the horrible, horrible spectre of competition. So we're going to do that. As for the other pre-show blurb, we've got social media, we've got Patreon, we've got our VODs over on YouTube. They're all linked down below. All of our actual social media, our Twitter, our Instagram is Telling Tales RP, and the rest is basically some variation on that could probably do with tidying up a bit. But all the links are down below. I think that's it. I think that's all of our blurb for tonight. So without any further ado, Steve, pop on and say hi and then goodbye, so people don't get horribly alarmed if your face pops up. Who is this guy, they will say. Steve is our stream manager. Yes, Steve is our stream manager. He helps out with everything, and then he comes on at the beginning, and then he goes away again, and we never see him because everything is as smooth as silk.
Fingers crossed. Anyway, goodbye.
Let's roll on our players and start the recap from last week, and then we can just crack on. So first on, let's bring on Pierre, who plays Oscar Kane, our fledgling Tremere and antiquarian. And last week, you definitely had a set of rather alarming encounters, and we're just kind of coming off the back of them. Why don't you tell us where we picked up last week, Pierre?
Well, we picked up with a nice corpse in front of us, which is always a good place to start. Everyone had decided to run. We'd been told to get the hell out of there. And we were in some hot water. So we got the car that we'd previously stolen. We drove it some random place, ditched it, and ran with our tail nobly between our legs all the way back to our home, which is that's basically
Down Street, the abandoned subway station / World War II bunker.
So cozy.
Upon your return there, you found that Aurora Van Brand, the fearsome La Sombra, who had helped you in your search at the haven of the destroyed coterie of unknown vampires, you found that she had returned, and she had brought with her the individual who seems to be the only survivor from that group. And then there was a wee bit of an interrogation, which was at least partly led by Arthur Norris, our pharmacologically adept Ventru, played by John.
Interrogation sounds like a very harsh way to put it.
Sure. Friendly chat.
With a gentle questioning.
With a tied-up vampire.
Yes. Well, after asking Aurora to leave very politely, as she was upsetting... We found out her name was it Olive or Olivia?
Her name is Olive.
Her name is Olive. She was upsetting her for some reason. Mm-hmm. We found that Olive, as a member of the Sabbat, that her coterie made slightly too much noise one night, as Bruja in particular are likely to do, and ended up drawing the attention of the Inquisition, and that they had come to London after fleeing something in the north that she wouldn't say what it was, but said it was worse than the Inquisition, or that more worrying than in the Inquisition.
It was certainly implied. She said there are more terrifying things than the Inquisition,
which is pretty heavy thing to be told.
Yeah, especially, the Inquisition wiped out more or less the vampires of London.
Yeah.
And after that interrogation, I believe you had a minor contretemps.
A face-to-face, a bit of a harsh word with Cortland.
Your side.
Yes. Who basically we gave a debrief of the evening, and he expressed that he would very much like to talk to this Jack fellow that we spoke, and also that he's taking Olive away somewhere.
Jack, the mysterious Nosferatu, who helped you
Question mark.
through the events of that evening. I think then we rolled forward a night, and you basically had a night without any immediate orders, which was a new thing for you in London. So you decided to go out and sort of reconnoitre the area around Down Street, which is in Mayfair in London. And to give us the information on what happened there, let's bring on Neill, who plays Alex Taylor Brown, our resident prophetic Malkavian.
We had a wonderful wander through the streets. We found many interesting sights. Oscar managed to locate references in graffiti to something called antigen, a dangerous portent to be sure. Alex remembered this from their days in London, but we knew not what it meant. Just Mandrel identified many fascinating offices filled with poor slaves of office workers who were just begging to have their blood drained at another moment, whilst Alex found a wonderful collection of people who met regularly to discuss New Age mysticism, which is Alex's sort of people.
Absolutely. I believe Mandrel also basically carried out an above ground but very thorough kind of mental mapping of the underground tunnel and sewer spaces within Mayfair. And with a bit more effort, she will be able to kind of establish that a bit more firmly. And speaking of Mandrel, let's bring on Mandrel's player, Justin, who will tell us what happened on the coteries' return to Down Street that evening, blissfully thinking that their evening was, done of any kind of further drama.
So yeah, we got back, and waiting for us there were some landlords, and that's always a bad sign when you get back home. The landlord was Oscar Anisoff, I think a previous herald for Queen Anne, I think.
Queen Anne, the prior and Prince of London, yes.
They informed us of the compact between the various landlords of London that basically make sure that people do things that are sensible, like not using public transport or talking about vampires in public. And also they don't try and establish Elysiums and princes and power structures that are easily detectable. They asked us to inform our elders about their presence, and they said to put a pigeon up on the roof and use this pigeon to communicate with them. They seemed relatively happy for us to be there, but a bit cautious and worried about us causing a bit too much noise.
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary. Just for the purposes of completionism, just to throw in a couple of extra character names. Anisoff was accompanied by two other of the landlords of London, H. Daniel, and an individual whose name I literally always forget every time I try and say it, Najma Elmi. Yes, I think that's everything. So without any further ado, I'm going to say that the rest of that particular evening passed more or less without incident, other than a couple of the ghouls that are currently guarding your haven, guarding Down Street, will have informed you that they were going to basically, during the day, pass on word to the elders of the mission about this rather unexpected, or at least partly unexpected, development of the arrival of the landlords at Down Street. So with that in mind, perhaps you could expect a visit from them at some point tonight. Maybe you're not entirely sure. But with that in mind, it's a new night, I think. And with a new night comes rouse checks. So let's give us all a rouse check to see whether you'll have grown hungrier over the course of the horrible, horrible burning day.
am hungrier.
Hungrier. Have we got anyone at significant levels of hunger, like 3 or above? 2? That's okay. You're all fine. You're all fine. Okay, so you've woken up in this evening in Down Street. Nothing has changed. Obviously, the ghouls are all there. Now, I believe there was talk the previous evening of someone wanting to go to their antique store / bookstore.
It's funny that you should mention that.
Perhaps we could have a little conversation about that Oscar might want to bring up.
Yeah. So I'll have a chat with, I don't know, Mandrill and Arthur. Alex, if you're there, you can also join in. But
You can spend a Benny if you want to join the scene.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was mentioning that I wanted to I have a few personal effects and actually potentially some significant occult items left at my shop. I will admit that the discussion previously of burning down my shop was not the most appealing. Not that I would necessarily forego it, but could we perhaps get a few choice items before doing that, if that is to be the course of action?
I think that's very, very achievable, Oscar.
Did you send a ghoul to have a look at the shop?
I did not. I have not sent a ghoul. To be honest, I don't know if a ghoul could really. I don't know how well trained these people are.
My ghoul is pretty well trained, Oscar.
Okay. Like
I'm normally send Chuck out to do all kinds of complex finding and gathering when I need that work done, locating, things I need for my work, other things like that.
we've just
Normally he's pretty good talking his way out of a tight situation too. So
sure. Well, I don't know. I would personally, I would feel more comfortable if I could go there myself. I feel like the instructions I would have to give to a ghoul, I suppose I could. Do you think it's dangerous for us to go out?
I believe that
Oh.
we should send a ghoul to scout out the location. I'm sure Alex has snuck up on you using Silence of Death and might have just appeared from silent nowhere.
Still not used to that.
We may be able to go there later, but perhaps someone unaffiliated with us should go there first to ensure there is no observation.
Okay.
And then we can either burn it down or not at a later time.
Okay. Just hold back on the burning it down, all right?
Of course. As you wish.
I mean, aside from anything else, arsons are investigated. So I don't necessarily think that that's the best idea. I did also have another thing. Where did they take Arshad? Do you know?
There are many mysteries in the world, young fledgling. Sadly, this one is to me. Alex will look at Mandrill and Arthur, as I believe it is to all of us.
Right.
Hopefully somewhere with a real doctor.
I would not put down your capabilities, Dr. Norris. They were most impressive the other night.
You're not actually a doctor, are
Thank
you?
you.
Okay,
No.
I just wanted to be on the same page. We were lying to him when we said that.
Alex looked shocked.
Yes.
Okay, fine. All right, I agree with you. Let's send a ghoul to scout this place out. Although, it being night, perhaps, well, maybe we can send them while we're doing something else. How many ghouls are there here? I haven't really been keeping track.
You're not entirely sure off the top of your head. They seem to a certain degree to kind of rotate. At any one time, I think we said there were 6 plus Mandrill's ghoul.
Okay. So we have one on the roof.
Mhm.
Have we sent anyone up to the roof with the pigeon?
I will
Sure.
have, yeah.
So we have 5 and Mandrels. I don't know. Mandrel, would it be okay if you asked your ghoul to help out in this manner? I trust that more.
Matt, are you happy doing a Scottish accent?
Sure. I'm not sure we have to role play the conversation of you telling your ghoul to go do something, but
Yeah, no. I'm happy to tell Chuck. Chuck is the name of my ghoul, Oscar.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, sorry, Chuck. Chuck. He's a person.
Yes, that's
Alex
a way of
smirks
putting it.
at that.
Yeah.
So he has aspirations to be more than a person, but for now, he's a person.
The fact that you vouch for him makes me feel comfortable. So,
He's smart, but not too smart. That's what I always find best with ghouls. You don't want one that's smarter than you.
So is the idea with Chuck that we're sending him to just kind of roughly case the joint before you head out there, just so you don't walk into like a big van outside that says Second Inquisition written on the side.
Yeah, exactly. Or if it looks like the place has been busted into and ransacked, or that there's a big what was it that we found in the house opposite the thing? A fumigation.
One of those big fumigation tents over it. Yeah.
If it looks like it's being watched. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things. And then otherwise we if there's an urgent list of things to recover, then we could probably do that. But I think instead we'll just the reconnaissance.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you doing anything while he is going to do that? I'm happy to skip an hour forward for him to come back with the report.
Alex was going to suggest that this may be awkward for other plans to this evening, but Alex was going to suggest that reconnaissance takes a long time, day and night, because we don't know what is facing us.
Okay.
I mean, they have to have a good reason to be looking for me specifically. And Arshad is the only one who could have known anything, and he's in safe hands.
Sure.
And equally, the longer we leave it, the more likely that it is for them to, if they are watching it, barge in and take things.
Also, longer we leave it, the longer it takes for someone to investigate the mysterious disappearance of the owner, to break in and to find the massive pool of blood. At which point we're not going to get in.
Also, on a selfish level, if we're not going to do this in this session, you might need to give me 10 minutes so I can write another session.
I didn't think that might be the case. So we've sent Chuck, and in the meantime, we're twiddling thumbs and skulking.
No, it needn't be an hour, but if you have anything else you want to do, we can do that, or we can wind time forward however long you think would be necessary. That you asked Chuck, how long is he sent out to observe the place or to what have you?
However long it takes, Alex was going to start tidying things, because I think it's a bit messy.
Mandra will start messing things up.
You're going to get all Fallout 3 settlement manager in here.
I thought you were going to say Odd Couple.
Fallout 4. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say Odd Couple.
That too. Okay. Is anyone else doing anything while Chuck is out scouting out Oscar's shop?
I was trying to think of ideas about how to get Jack's attention, because we want to arrange some kind of meeting. Maybe I'll chat to Arthur about that. Do you have any ideas about how to? I mean, you seem to be, good at maybe making a scene.
I don't know what you imply by that.
Forget I said anything. But he was insisting that he would be able to get in contact with us whenever he felt like it.
Yes.
Is there any way that that suggests to me that he might be monitoring us in some way? Potentially there's something that we could do to draw his attention without drawing his anger? but I don't know.
Other than going out and making ourselves obvious in a safe and responsible kind of way,
I mean,
I honestly can't think of anything.
His territory, presumably, we know roughly where that is because of Cold Harbor.
We do, but he seemed to give the impression that he wanted to come to us.
Okay. Well,
I would, you know that, well, you're not sure whether Cold Harbor he considers his territory. He certainly seems to consider Lambeth his territory, I think.
Lambeth, sure.
Rather than Cold Harbor itself, which was where their haven was. As you're having this discussion, and I'm perfectly happy for Mandrel and Alex to be counter tidying and messing in the background while this is happening, so that everyone hears it. One of the ghouls kind of leans her head into. I'm assuming, of course, you may not be, that you are in the kind of what's become the meeting room, right? The kind of council room, as it were, where you carried out the interrogation and various other things. She kind of leans her head through the door and says, "Can I talk to you for a moment?"
Of course.
Well, all of you. I went and spoke to Wynne and some of the others during the day to tell them about the landlords. They have a couple of requests for you. We told them other things you've been mentioning. Essentially, they need some of you here. She seems a little nervous to be talking to you in this fashion. They need some of you here to talk to later tonight when they arrive, about Anasoff and the others. But also, some of them were a little bit, she glances over at Oscar, aggrieved that the store in Soho hasn't been shuttered and dealt with. They say it doesn't need to be destroyed, but you can't be going back there for a while, so anything that can link to you, it needs to either be destroyed or be taken from there.
Sure.
How fortuitous.
Well, Miss Thomas said to tell you should have done it already. Her words.
That sounds exactly right.
Now, I'm going to say the other three of you who aren't Pierre, Oscar, because he doesn't have a chance. How much attention would you say you'd have paid to the members of the mission who weren't your clan? Because you can all say just none if you want.
I think I would have paid
Plenty?
some attention to them, if just to find out where the power dynamics lie, you know?
Sure.
And there's a healthy dose of paranoia that goes
Yeah,
with being
sure.
Octavian.
I mean, you don't know for sure whether she's the leader of her clan's representation, but you get the feeling she's probably talking about Astrid Thomas, who is a Tremere elder, who is definitely on board with the mission and seems to spend most of her time rubbing people up the wrong way. How unlike the Tremere. So, yeah.
Well, it's so handy that the leader of your clan is giving us such clear guidance and wisdom, Oscar.
Wisdom we would never reach on our own.
I've always liked being told what to do.
Point taken. Let's go. I don't think we can afford to wait.
I think we can afford to wait. I think we can wait till Chuck gets back, but maybe you're right, Oscar. Maybe making them wait isn't the right decision.
I would agree with you, Mandrel. And particularly once your wonderful Chuck returns, I believe that you would be a wonderful person to accompany good Oscar to make sure that he does not misstep whilst engaging in the requisite destruction or shuttering of his old life.
Okay, understandable. It's not like I'm very good at talking to those above my station anyway. So
I fear,
maybe it's best if
Mandel,
I'm not here.
that is not quite true. It is they who are not good at talking to you.
Right. So you're not inclined to come now.
We'll wait till. I mean, the plan was to wait till Chuck gets back. If Chuck's not
Yes.
back within the allotted time, then we'll go and find out what's gone wrong. I'm sure that he'll be back in time.
I
He
just
very
don't
rarely
want-
lets me down.
I just don't want this Thomas fellow. From-
Fella.
Oh,
What?
Thomas is a last
Female
name.
fellow.
Do you think
No,
that
I know,
fella
I
is
know,
the feminine of fellow?
I don't think that fellow is the female fellow, but I think that that was an attempt at a
Sure,
joke.
sure.
It wasn't a great one, but I so rarely miss a jokes.
It's
I
a
thought I'd give
I
it
really
a push.
wanted that to be true, but you know.
I'm just worried that our betters will take something into their own hands.
Oh, you'll fit really well with them.
Alex looks quite askance at the comment of betters.
Okay.
Arthur is just shaking his head at Mandel.
Oscar,
Right.
Oscar, when just a bit of advice for staying alive.
Mhm.
People will always try to get you to do things on their time schedules, and that's fine. But if you have a plan and it's one that makes sense and keeps you alive, it's good to stick with it, at least until it blows up. When it blows up, then you can go rushing in. But if someone's just told you to go rushing into a potentially dangerous situation because they want to do things quickly, that doesn't sound like a very good way to keep your skin.
Right. I'll take that on board.
If Chuck's not back within the hour, we'll go find him.
The door creaks open.
How long has it been? Okay.
There's Chuck. A little bit longer than he said he'd take, but not too much longer.
Excellent. I'm sure everything was fine, Chuck. No signs of anyone apart from us. It was as we described it when we left, right?
Right. Nothing.
Excellent.
That's
all right.
Accent.
He's just nervous about talking
that's
with all
good.
of these new
Okay,
kindred.
let's get
I
going.
hadn't
Then.
prepared for it, damn it.
I'm so sorry, Matt. Okay, well that sounds great. Let's head off straight away, Oscar. Let's not tarry any longer, lest we upset your Tremere elders. We've got to get you started on the right foot with them, or they'll eat you.
You're not
Tremere elders only
serious
eat
about that.
people from other clans. So
He doesn't know that. He
classic
doesn't know anything.
Vampire Masquerade jokes there. Okay, so the two of you are. How are you going to make your way to Soho?
It's quite early in the night. How far would it be to walk?
It's probably about, and obviously no one flame me for my London geography here. I believe it's half an hour on the tube, which would mean that it's an hour's walk.
Yeah, it could be an hour or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, we could get we have a number for a taxi firm that
You do indeed have a number for a taxi firm that is apparently trustworthy
Safe.
and reliable and safe.
Let's try this number then. We'll go a little way from the haven and make a phone call at one of the boxes.
Okay.
Before they go, I will remind at least Oscar. Remember to, look alive.
Oh, I can do that.
That's a great way
Yes.
of phrasing it.
It's a very good idea.
I'm also going to be putting on a blush of life for what it's
Okay.
worth.
Do you really need to?
I don't know. I'm torn.
If you go around with a scarf around your head,
I don't know, because I don't want it to be like a superpower that I get just because I'm hideous.
sure. Nosferatu don't have to use blush of life or whatever. Yeah. No, I get you. No, that's fair. I appreciate that, Justin.
So
yeah. So are we both putting on Blush of Life for interactions with taxi drivers and others? Cool. Then that's a rouse roll, please.
So I managed to pass my first rouse roll this when I woke up, but now, unfortunately,
when it
back
hits you.
to form.
That's fine.
I'm now 3 hungry.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm pretty hungry.
It's all fine. So you make your way out of the haven via a safe exit. Walk a little way. I assume you're going to call from a phone booth since you have no mobile phones.
Yeah, that would be good.
The phone booths that definitely still exist in the world of darkness, even though they don't really hear. You call for that taxi. There's no unusual happenstance. The taxi arrives and quietly and without really paying much attention to you, speeds you to Soho and drops you off just down the street from Oscar's shop. Remind us again, Oscar, what your shop is called.
Oh, damn! I can't remember. Isn't it?
It was a lifetime ago.
It was so long.
The Hunter's something or the something hunt.
Yeah, the Hunter's Watch was the thing.
Hunter's Watch
Yeah.
is the name of Oscar's antiques and book and weird relics store. So you walk down the street towards the Hunter's Watch. Everything looks as it normally should. It is pouring with rain. The only kind of thing really of note in any way is that the lamppost outside the Hunter's Watch is kind of flickering off and on and giving an odd kind of strobing, eerie cast to the front of the store, and it's flickering like it flickers in an odd way. It's not like a normal light flickering. It's like off on, off on, off on. Justin,
can I take a look for any new graffiti that might have well, or could be old graffiti, but that looks like any of the kind of things we've already seen?
Yes, you want to look for graffiti.
Yeah.
It's sure that's you can take a. Are you taking your time with it, or are you just kind of glancing around?
I don't think we're in a rush. But,
okay, sure. So you're doing it as part of kind of casing it before you go in or whatever.
Yeah.
In that case, you can give me a resolve plus investigation roll, please.
That's a good roll to make.
And I want it at difficulty 2, please.
5 die, but 1 success. So that's a failure.
Yeah, you're just not sure whether any of it's new or any of it's kind of related to the other stuff you've seen.
Is there a back entrance to this place, Oscar? Maybe that's less observed?
Yeah, absolutely. If it's all right, I'd quite like to just walk along the street and see if anything seems different from the last time I've been.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I know this area and if anything looks particularly weird.
I think that's fine. Can you give me a wits plus awareness roll, please? Difficulty 2 again.
Okay, wits plus awareness. God, wits, awareness.
We can shuffle Alex and Arthur off screen for now. By the way,
4 dice. 4. 0 successes, but not like a. 0 successes.
Yeah, no bestial failure or anything. That's fine.
No.
Yeah, you can't really tell, in all honesty. It's like when you walk past a place so often that
it's just
you don't even know what it does look like because it's just scenery.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go back to Mandrel. Yeah, let's go around the back. That seems like a good idea.
Excellent.
Okay. So the back entrance to the Huntsman's Watch is just kind of a little side alley with a little rather it's not very sturdy and safe, but a little kind of lockable door by a dumpster that you can open up and head on in. Sure. Are there any kind of overt precautions we're taking or anything? Or I'm not saying those things are required or needed. Just fill the scene for us. How are you approaching this?
Well, it's raining and we're in an alley, right? That's basically. So I imagine Oscar is trying to remember which of the keys opens the back door.
Oh, no. I mean, like, how are you entering the place? How are you cautiously or with the familiarity that you're going home, or?
I like when I enter, I definitely I walk in and I sort of expect to smell the like old books and everything to be like that, but it feels weird because I'm not mortal anymore, and it's all my senses are messed up.
You can smell, but it's like there's a certain deadened level to it. Like you can smell it, but it doesn't make you feel anything or particularly think of anything, and it seems more like a memory of a smell than that your senses are telling you it yourself. Okay. So, Mandrel, what are you doing while Oscar starts rummaging around the place?
I think I'd ask for where a bucket and some soap is, so I can clean up the blood. If we haven't probably already done that, I don't know if we did that on the night.
I think you did clean up.
Okay.
Before you left, I think, and if not, we can hand wave it that you did.
Sure. What are you looking for, Oscar? Do you need me to grab any books or?
Well, I mean, if you, there are a few books that I definitely think were related, but I mean, I am, as you know, somewhat ignorant of what is particularly relevant to vampiric nature. The
plan. I think the most sensible thing is if we, eventually we're going to get some body in here to run the place. So I think if you can grab anything you need to set that up. Either put yourself on holiday in your calendar for work or take the hard drive or both. Yeah. And then, just grab what you need to be able to sort all that stuff out. Any personal details, anything like that,
I can handle that. Don't worry about that. But so how about you stay downstairs and deal with some of the books around here and see if you see anything that's particularly relevant to what you know of the Camarilla and others.
Make sure you grab any IDs, passports, birth certificates, those kinds of things. Best to keep those close while you still have access to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll
So Oscar, are you going to give Mandrel? I think it's fairly reasonable to expect
a book list would be good.
Yeah. Maybe you've made a list, right? Of
he's had so much time to plan it, hasn't he?
Yeah, entirely.
Sure.
So I think that's fair. So these are
the ones that I can
hand it over to Mandrel, and then you can head up to the little flat above and get you all your personal effects that you might need.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I I obviously pick up like my journal and like address book, which has like numbers and all sorts of data in that. I take my wallet. I get I take out. Well, actually, I'll just take my wallet, and then I take a very specific book, and I take it out and I open it to a particular page, and I take out like a small piece of paper, and I then put the book back. And
this isn't this isn't a particular book of supernatural import, is it? It's just
no. It's in fact a really uninteresting book. It's just the most generic possible book.
Sure, absolutely. Cool. Mandrel, can you give me a resolve plus academics roll, please?
I'm going to smash this.
Difficulty 1.
Okay,
kind of begs the question: why am I asking you for it?
3
it
successes.
becomes apparent really quite quickly that a fair few of these books aren't on these shelves.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm not going to alert Oscar until he's, finished with what he's doing, but I'll make sure I note that.
Okay.
And then
I mean, the search isn't particularly easy because for a start, you're mainly doing it from that kind of flickering light of the lamppost outside, which is honestly driving you mild, irritating you.
Sure. I'll come down after trying to make sure that Mandrel didn't see what I was doing with my personal effects because I'm a private person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll come down and have a look too and help him. Help her with all the stuff.
Unless any of these books have been taken out recently or sold, they're not here. Maybe someone's been and padlock already.
Okay, I go to the front door and I check to see if is it still locked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the back door was locked. So whoever
That doesn't. We're going to leave them locked too. That's not the problem. Have you got everything you need?
Yeah, I've got everything. Here's the hard drives and such. So you think somebody's been here?
That's possible. Otherwise, that's not important right now. All we can do right now is make sure that we've deleted anything that ties you to anything that was happening to do with Kindred Society.
To be fair, I think Oscar can decide maybe what he considers to be important.
That's fair.
Yeah,
in the scene a little bit.
Can I have any insight into like the specific things that are missing? Is there any pattern to the thing?
Absolutely. Why don't you give me a intelligence plus academics roll, which I can imagine.
Can I use my
nailing.
Aquarian?
You absolutely can, and I'm going to need 3 successes off you, please.
Okay. Sorry, that was academics plus what?
Intelligence.
Sure. So that's 7 dice. 4 successes.
Okay.
Yes.
Every book that was taken seems to have definitely has something to do with the supernatural broadly, or the occult, and a lot of them seem to be specifically related to kind of magic of various kinds, or reputed magic, or kind of a history of alchemy and sorcery and witchcraft and all these kind of things. There's no one kind of unifying factor through them, but essentially everything in your bookstore that relates to kind of more overt occult matters or magical matters has been taken.
Did we see Oscar's sire taking any books as she left?
Nope, definitely not. She got out of there as fast as she possibly could.
Is there anything to do with just vampires as a whole that has been left? But like, do I get the sense that this is really specifically blood magic?
You didn't really have anything here that was relating directly to vampires, partly because Masquerade, and partly because anything that you had that was even remotely related to them, you sold to Arshad, because that was what he was after. So nothing overtly vampiric, no.
Okay. I'm going to try and use Sense the Unseen to see if there's anything weird or supernatural, that like any presence or anything strange.
Sure.
Just, is that okay?
Yeah, by all means.
That is resolve and auspex, I think. So 4.
That's right.
Oh, this is kind of 3 successes.
Okay. Does it give any kind of guidelines as to what one might find with a varied number of successes, or? If it doesn't, that's fine.
Whenever against an entity actively trying to stay hidden, the storyteller can call for a blind roll, but otherwise the storyteller makes a hidden roll of wits plus auspex against the difficulty they choose. Yeah,
sure. I'm not concerned about vampires lurking behind you. I just meant in a general sense. The only thing you have is there's an odd feeling to the air, like an odd sort of rich, almost kind of like it reminds you of feeding, like an odd, weird, rich vibration to the air that seems to be kind of maybe fading or pale, like something has happened here, something beyond science has happened here, but you have no idea what.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe if you learned enough, you might know, but you're just at the beginning of that journey,
Yeah.
And as you're kind of like coming out of a bit of a trance after being stood there with your eyes closed for a little bit to do this, there is like the flickering of the light stops, and
fuck. What do we do?
There is
I'm going-
a figure stood at the doorway. You can't quite see who they are, other than that they're quite short and they're quite slender. But now that the light has gone outside, all you can see is this figure in kind of the pouring rain, waiting apparently quite calmly at the door.
Well, we're not in though, aren't we? We're not. I'm whispering this, but
I mean, if they stood at the door, they
Yeah.
can see you.
Okay.
okay.
Well,
Without
they're
the
not.
lights on.
You're in the store. You're in the.
That's true. I thought we had shutters on those windows, but never mind.
No.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Well, you best go answer it then, Oscar.
Yeah. All right. And I go up to the door. As I approach the door, can I smell anything? I have an ability to smell, basically. That is.
We all have the ability to smell, Oscar.
Yeah, but I have an ability to smell nice. No.
Have you got heightened senses? Is that what you're?
I've
Sure.
got a thing that is feeding bloodhound. I can smell the resonance of a human's blood without tasting it. I do need to be within olfactory range of the person. But if
I'd say no. If there's a door between them and
door,
you. Yeah,
Just trying to
I'd
be
say
like-
that's like as you're near enough to kind of contemplate feeding on someone, you can sense
Sure.
their resonance or whatever.
Okay.
As you get closer to the door, you can kind of, you get a much better bearing on who stood outside. It appears to be a young woman, and as you get closer, you recognize it as Aish, who was accompanying Anasoff in the previous evening when the landlords came to visit you. Just as a reminder, she's a young woman of kind of Middle Eastern extraction, wearing a hijab and kind of casual, almost like studenty clothes, like t-shirt, jeans.
I open the door. Aish. Wasn't
She
expecting-
kind of brightly says to you, "Yes, Oscar, may I come in?"
Oh, of course. My home is your home.
She walks in and kind of looks around with interest and then looks over and says, I'm sorry, I don't think I got your name last night. She's looking at Mandrill.
My name is Mandrill.
Mandrill, a pleasure to meet you. I don't suppose I could request some privacy for a discussion pertinent to clan matters?
That would be fun. I kind of nod and I'll probably kind of. I'll probably go into the back office, but I would if it looks comfortable with me just being out of earshot but still visible, I'd rather keep my eyes on Oscar because I don't want to let him out of my sight.
Sure. You kind of walk through to the back office and kind of stand there with the door open. Aisha's still watching you.
I'll close the door, but is there like a kind of window in the door that I can look through?
There's no window in the door. You can certainly try and listen at the door. It's not a terribly big and bulky door, if that's what you wanted.
Yeah, I will, but I'm not going to be like leaning against it.
If you really want to keep eyes on, there is a keyhole. Do you want to roll to see how well you can see through the keyhole? I'm fine with that.
That would make me more comfortable. Yeah.
Sure. Give me a wits plus awareness roll. Let's say for looking through a keyhole. And see. Let's just see how many successes you get on how well you kind of get the impression of what's going on.
I get a bestial failure, but it's probably best to just handle that like after this conversation.
I can see where that's going. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think, shall we say that instead of even listening at the door, you're kind of pacing up and down in the back room in a growing sense of fury. Okay. So, Oscar, you are in your shop with Aish. She turns to you and smiles, kind of a friendly but sort of reserved smile, and says, "Well, Oscar, as I suppose, at least for the moment, the preeminent member of Clan Tremere in London, at least remaining in London, I wanted to welcome you to our clan. Something tells me, Oscar, you haven't been with us long, have you?"
No, a few nights. I'm a fast learner, though, and the fact that you're the first member of my clan who I've actually been able to talk to. So for any extended period of time, my sire had to leave on orders. So perhaps you could give me answers where I have,
You have been left in the care of other clans.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're my friends.
I almost don't want to say this to you, Oscar, but this is truly unacceptable. Not of you, of them.
Huh.
Of both your sire and the responsibility of these individuals you refer to as your friends. That you must understand that the bonds of clan are far more important than... No matter. You have met me now.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wish to ask me here and now?
Well, I've been referred to as being some sort of blood mage. I don't... What is the extent of the possibilities with that?
It is perhaps more correctly referred to as blood sorcery. The older members of our clan may even refer to it as thaumaturgy. There are many, many applications of the things that we can do, Oscar. And I fear that by being abandoned among these other clans, your true potential, even at this early stage, is not really being reached. I'm not suggesting you come away with me, but I'm sure that perhaps tuition and guidance is needed, and I cannot see you getting it from these others. Even if there are other members of Clan Tremere with your group, they seem to have abandoned you. This is a gross dereliction of duty. Anyone, even the other clans, will tell you that Clan Tremere is... We may not be the pyramid we once were, Oscar, but we are still a solid house with deep foundations.
Well, perhaps you could enlighten me as to how I could unlock my potential, as you say.
Quite simple. She draws a piece of paper out of her pocket, scribbles on it. When you find the time, come here.
Thank you.
I can start your tutelage. I can also introduce you to elements within the clan remotely, which... I am a member of a group within the clan, Oscar, and I like to think of us as the progressives of Clan Tremere, which some would consider an oxymoron, but not anymore. And perhaps you will join us, perhaps not. But either way, you should not have been abandoned like this.
Well, you're very kind. I appreciate this a lot. I'll be sure to call you, and perhaps learn a bit more of whatever happened to our clan.
Please do. And she looks around and says, when coming to where I live or here, just be careful, yes? I know Anasov already said, but be careful.
Noted.
She turns around, walks out of the door into the pouring rain and kind of closes it very quietly behind her and walks off into the night.
Okay. Whew. Oh, I thought that was going to be terrible, Mandrel. I come and open the door to see you pacing, I guess.
I kind of What was all that about?
That was nothing to be worried about. She just seemed to be passing by, wanted to.
What does she want to get her bloody hands on anyway? All over our coterie, meddling in things.
She's perfectly nice.
Sure, where do you think your books went, Oscar, you fool?
Look,
They've taken them, and now they're going to take you, and they're going to fill you with all of that blood. And...
Terrible fate to be filled with blood.
Yeah,
I'm trailing off.
Yeah,
Blood magic is where I was going.
Look, it's okay. I'm sorry that she didn't want to. I would have been happy to share that with you. Everything that.
No, you wouldn't, Oscar. Not for long. Not for long. Not after they get their fucking claws into you.
Okay. I can see this has riled you up. I'm sorry, Mandrill. Look, I owe you a debt, but also I've got to consider my own, progress and ability to become who I can be. You've got to understand this is important to me.
It is important to you, Oscar, and it's important to reach your potential.
Anyway,
it just seems like they I'm really trying hard to avoid. I don't think Mandrill is a kind of character that has like an overly she's not trying to be like a brood mother or anything. But I think there's something here to be said about the loss of innocence that Mandrill can probably express more eloquently than me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. So if is the idea now that you've are you going to carry on any more investigation here, or are you going to kind of retreat with what books you could and your personal effects and any electronic equipment you have and things like that? Is that the idea, or is there more you want to do here?
Should we leave a notice in the window saying shop assistant wanted, please post CV through letterbox or something, and that way we can get a start on recruiting somebody to work this place without having to give them a phone number?
Yes, but what? How could they get in contact with us? I suppose post it through.
If they leave their CV through the door, then we can call them up afterwards, or we can arrange to get access to a computer to send them an email. That sounds reasonable.
Okay.
It might come to nothing, but that's a start we can make on this without we can burn the place down. One of the two.
Look, I think for now it's okay to just close it down temporarily. Make it out like I'm on holiday. Maybe make it out like we're looking for staff wanted. I'll write something up or possibly print something out. Using the computer that I still have here. And yes, that's everything.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah. So if that's everything, then I'm happy for you to have posted that thing in the window and bagged all the books in a kind of maybe a canvas bag or something that Mandrill brought with her. And you've got your personal effects. You've got all your electronic goods. Get out of there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, you lock it up. I take it you're leaving via the back as well, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, and then heading on out, are you going to return via taxi, or are you maybe trying to take a safer route? And I don't want to, I don't like dropping
hints. Go for maximum danger.
If you're going for maximum safety, Mandrill, once you get to Mayfair, you've definitely got an idea of a safer way to get home by now, I think. Once you're in Mayfair, but
I'm happy to walk.
If we have plenty of time, I'm happy to walk, yeah.
Sure.
And maybe and I don't know if we can be hunting on the way back or keeping our eye out for things like that. I know Oscar's quite hungry.
You could try, you won't be, doing your preferred hunting style, but you could definitely maybe try and hunt on the way back.
We're just, we're outside of our local area, so that's where we're supposed to be hunting. So,
or you could wait until you get just into Mayfair, do a bit of hunting, or try and do a bit of hunting, and then maybe make your way back. Like just if anyone's, any viewers are wondering, I am implying that the tunnels and the sewers of Mayfair are the safest way, undoubtedly, back to Down Street at this point.
Was part of the compact that we can't hunt in Mayfair?
No.
Okay.
The part of the compact, like they didn't talk about the landlord's domains and what you can and can't do there as part of the compact, but they certainly talked about it in general. Don't go hunting in another landlord's domain, essentially. And you don't know whether Soho is one of those or not. It's probably not, because I suspect Soho counts as central London, right? And they implied that central London is more or less no one lives there now, apart from you guys, because it's not very safe. But they definitely said that Mayfair was
safe, was legit.
You were allowed to hunt there. So with that in mind, is the plan to walk back to Mayfair and then try and do a bit of hunting and then try and approach Down Street in the safest way? Or you could just get a taxi if you want, but I just wondered, with this bag full of books and electronic goods,
this is a bit conspicuous.
I don't know. Not to mention, you don't probably don't want to get caught with electronic stuff on you.
That is true. Let's walk back.
Yeah, we're walking.
Walking. Okay, that's fine. Let's cut back to Down Street then while you're having that journey. So can we swap for our other coterie members, please? Okay. Oh, I'm in the middle. How exciting. So back in Down Street, nothing especially happens for an hour or so. And then you can hear kind of not a commotion, but certainly some voices by the entranceway, that long set of stairs that comes down. And if you're anywhere near it, you can look over and you can see that there are a couple of other ghouls kind of heading in, who you've seen before but weren't here before now tonight. And then shortly behind them are a quite odd, mismatched group of 5 kindred. You have seen and met them all, albeit not in game. So let's bring that big old composite picture of those 5 elders on. So these are, it's a bit more complex and slapdash than this, but these are generally, one could consider, the 5 preeminent leaders of the mission to reclaim London. You already know Wynne, who's there in the center, who is kind of the overall leader, who is a Scottish gangrel. You are familiar with the other 4, some more than others. 2 of them are kind of your clan leaders in this endeavor. There is Helena Casimir, the kind of lead Ventru, in so much as, I guess, all the Ventru are lead Ventru by their very nature. And Gilbert Dwayne, who is, if not the leader of the Malkavians, at least probably the oldest, and certainly the one that the other clans seem to show the most deference to. Then there is Astrid Thomas, the Miss Thomas alluded to earlier, who is the leader of the Tremere, and Sebastian Marley, the leader of the Nosferatu here. They all look more or less as they do in those images, but as they talk, I'll throw in some extra details about them. And if we could, I know sometimes maybe we hold these pictures up for a bit long, and shout out in chat if it's getting on your nerves, but let's hold these 5 up for a while, because I feel like I'm going to be jumping between them a bit, right? So it'll be handy to be able to keep them in mind while we do it. They stride through the entrance and over to where you're all standing. And Helena kind of steps forward. She's kind of a shortish, slightish woman with kind of an old-fashioned blue dress, as you see there. And she leans forward as she comes to you, Arthur, and says, "Arthur, oh, how are you doing?" And kind of leans forward and kisses you on both cheeks.
I will lean in for the not quite air kiss and return the favor. I'm doing marvelously, dear Helena. I hope you're not out here because of any trouble? Or are you just here to discuss the fantastic guests we had the other night?
Yes, the landlord's such a delight to know we are not alone. But I think that we... She looks over at Wynne and he goes, "Aye, in private," and strides into the conference room of Down Street, and the other elders follow. Astrid and Sebastian kind of right behind him. Gilbert lagging at the rear a bit, and every so often, twitching is too strong a word for it, but every so often kind of glancing up into corners or kind of through doorways as he walks and takes a place at the back of the conference room, kind of flush against the wall, sort of peering around himself.
I'm guessing that's a regular character trait I will have noticed before from Gilbert, right?
Anyone who spends any amount of time around Gilbert Duane is well aware of his paranoid tendencies.
Right. I wait for him to be done with whatever he's doing and gesture for Helen.
Sure. Alex, I'm assuming you're kind of following through. Are you greeting anyone in particular?
Alex will enter, float through serenely, and when everyone is seated, say, "Thank you all for coming to our haven. I hope that you are all most comfortable." And we'll take a seat.
Helena, who's kind of already kind of brushed the seat off slightly with a handkerchief, and then sat down, kind of looks at you, Alex, and then turns to Arthur and says, "You have such a polite friend, dear."
Well, yes, Alex does excel himself at that. You should be thankful that the Nosferatu wasn't here.
We apologize for the mess. We are still making ourselves at home. I am sure you all understand.
Sebastian Marley, who's a kind of skeletal, extremely kind of lanky figure, as you can see on the art there, with a long, formless red robe, kind of almost hunches his way over a table as he's also sat in a chair, and kind of gently picks up a black cat that's almost always upon his person off his shoulder and kind of places them on the table where they kind of sniff around warily with a tail whipping backwards and forwards, and says, "The provenance and layout of your haven is currently of very little interest to us. Tell us of these landlords."
Well, they arrived quite unexpectedly, giving our ghouls a nasty shock, I will tell you. They seemed quite polite. The leader, main speaker, spokesperson, was called Oscar Anisov. He introduced himself as the former herald of Queen Anne. I will look around the room for any kind of reaction.
Marley kind of nods slowly with an odd tilt to his head and says, "We know of Anisov."
Well, he and I believe the others were called Aish, Neill, and Najma Elmi. We didn't get much more of an introduction than that from them, but they rather politely informed us that while we are here in London, it is for everyone's interest that we follow their compact, which all seemed quite reasonable, and also that they would like to speak with an amount of you at some point.
Marley turns and peers over at Astrid Thomas and says, "Aish, one of Kana's brood." Astrid Thomas, who has at this point been kind of standing back, arms folded, looking disinterested at best and offended by the notion of being here at most, makes a kind of ugly sound and just kind of turns her back and starts pacing along the wall, one of the walls that Gilbert isn't standing on.
They seem quite... Sorry, was someone else going to say something?
No, I was waiting for you.
They seemed quite reasonable. It was hard to gather from the conversation their attitudes towards the Camarilla.
Although they did say that they were not anarchs or rabble,
Yes.
they merely felt that total control of London was ill-advised due to the Second Inquisition. They implied that their rules and compacts were done to prevent further massacre of our kind.
Honestly,
They
many of them aren't far from what we do anyway. Most of it seemed like common sense.
Indeed, they simply are more strict and have very clear methods of communication so as to not alert any hunters.
Wynne, who has so far said very little, leans forward and kind of rests his upper half on a table and says, "This compact tells everything."
No public transport. Apparently the Second Inquisition have sensors and tubes, heat detecting cameras, that kind of thing. They know what to look out for. No electronics, which we know ourselves. No public discussion of anything Masquerade breaking.
No prince, of course.
No prince, no central government, basically, and no Elysium. It's every man for themselves.
We are all landlords of our own domain in their terms. Most of them in the outskirts of London. To their knowledge, we are the only ones residing in central London, which seems most portentous.
A jittery voice from the back of the room says, "Nowhere's safe. Not even here."
Alex just continues to smile, as they always do.
Helena kind of glances around at Gilbert and says, "Yes, quite, and a lesson we could all do to keep in mind, Mr. Dwayne. Indeed, nowhere is safe. So, this communication you spoke of,
Pigeons.
pigeons.
Yes, Anasov seems to be a keeper of pigeons in order to keep the listeners at bay. We have some on our roof right now. That is how he proposed that we contact him further."
I see."
Yes.
Alex nods, just like this is not just normal, but wondrous.
Well, perhaps we should send a message and arrange a meeting, yes? She turns around. Marley gives a kind of almost imperceptible little nod of his shoulders. Dwayne doesn't seem to be in any particular fit state to respond. Wynne gives a curt nod. And then Thomas throws up her hands and says, "Why are we dealing with the wretched rat-like scum who have scraped by in this city and frankly left it to the clutches of these ravening mortals? No prince. No Elysium. They've given up. And now they deign to come here and tell us where we may feed, where we may consider domain. I'm sorry. Mr. Norris, were you going to say something?
It's simply that, as they have survived in London for so long, it may be at least worth taking some pointers from them.
Really?
Well, I'm sure that
You think I have things I can learn from them?
I think
after
that they know the
centuries-
territory.
Centuries of scholarly pursuits, centuries of survival. I claim my descendant from the great Grimgroth, Norris. You don't even know who that is, do you?
I will admit I am completely ignorant, Miss Thomas.
But so are the
And-
Second Inquisition, and yet they can kill us all the same.
The Tremere were always hounded out of London, despised by the being who called this his home for centuries. Perhaps if we had been here in significant force, this may not even have happened, yes? Perhaps if we had been allowed to defend Vienna in the way in which we wished, this would never have happened. And now you say we need to follow the rules laid down by some petty little kings.
I'm saying that if someone lives near a field of bear traps, you probably should take their advice to where to stand.
And after
Well-
all, we can simply ignore them after we learn more. Knowledge is
Yes.
very powerful. Perhaps there may be some scraps amongst what they say, even if the rest is dross.
I assume I outvoted then. There's
I
a kind of
apologize.
there's a kind of silence among all the other elders. You know what? Why don't you both give me? I mean, obviously, a little bit of the power dynamics and politics in this room is not entirely hidden, but why don't you give me a wits plus insight roll to try and pick up on any more elements of the interaction between these individuals than you can pick up from than just the conversation alone. 1 success. 4 successes.
Oh my god.
That went a bit count. I'm not sure why.
Oh, yes, the angle's
Appropriate.
really weird sometimes.
Oh no, I meant my 1 success.
Four.
4
Oh god.
Arthur. I'm trying to give her the smallest snippet of information I can give you.
Give me exactly 1/4 the information you're about to
Sure.
give me.
Helena is, you think, at best tolerating Astrid. Feels like an appropriate bit of information to give you, being as you're probably focusing on Helena's reactions anyway, as to where to take your cues from. Alex, there are some very interesting dynamics going on here. Wynne is furious. You can kind of tell from a hunched set of his shoulders, he is restraining himself capably, but he is restraining himself. You wonder what power dynamics are at play here that make Astrid feel like she can behave like this safely in front of him, given that he is at least, apparently the leader, and yet she is, behaving like this and clearly making him angry. But it's not, she's an elder. It would be unusual for her not to realize she's making him angry. Something gives her the confidence to do this. You don't know what, but there we go. And with that, Wynne has clearly perhaps taken all he can take, and he stands upright again and says, "Enough. Send the message." He points at Alex. He turns to Helena and says, "Do it," and walks out. Helena goes, "Yes. I will script the message for you. Alex, yes?"
But of course, Helena.
I need to remain here anyway to greet Mr. Kane and instruct him in some minor administrative matters. So I will remain here. The others, I believe, maybe their business is done here. She looks around. Astrid just doesn't say or look at anyone else and just walks out. Marley raises one long pointed finger and says, I may remain and investigate the area.
But of course, Sebastian, I believe that Mandrill noticed, or Oscar noticed, some graffiti about antigen that may be of interest if you are scouting the area.
He waves one bony claw up and says, yes, antigen. The Inquisition's one of their names. Did you not know this?
But of course, but it was merely grown in graffiti.
Steer clear. He waves one odd appendage at you and kind of stand. As he rises, you kind of detect that even though he cuts a very skeletal and lanky figure, you get the impression he's hunched and perhaps is even more eerily tall if he deigned to unfold himself. The cat kind of scampers up the robe, perches on his shoulder again, and he kind of walks slowly out of the room with a kind of odd backwards and forwards gait. Dwayne is still stood there, kind of glancing around him, and Helena is there, sort of. She has an old-fashioned sort of pocketbook that she's pulled out, and a little fancy kind of electrum-plated pen that she's writing on.
Can I ask, when Helena mentioned Oscar, was there any reaction from Astrid?
No, not that you could tell.
Okay. Interesting.
Is there any further interaction you'd like to have with these two, or leave them leave them be? Helena seems quite intent, and she's taking her time with it. She's kind of writing one word and then tapping the pen lightly on her
Alex
lip.
was just going to ask, is there anything else that we can do for either of you whilst you are in our illustrious haven? We would be remiss if we were poor hosts.
Helena says, oh no, thank you. Oh, actually, could you ask my my man to come in here, please? He's near the entrance. He'll be very noticeable, yes.
But of course. And I'll look over Dwayne to see if there's...
Dwayne strides over to you and stands kind of very quickly, uncomfortably close in front of your face and says, show me all the exits out of here.
But of course. Arthur, would you mind speaking to Helena's gentleman whilst I aid?
Yes. I'll leave you to it.
Alex goes and does that, unless there's an interruption, although does not show him anything that's not obvious, like the postern.
So not the postern, in other words. Sure, yeah. You wander out from the conference room, and he's walking uncomfortably close behind you, to the point where if you slow at all, he'll kind of bump into you slightly. He kind of reaches at one hand and kind of rests it on your shoulder, almost as if you're guiding him. Although you are aware he can see and navigate perfectly well. And as you're kind of showing him around, he keeps up a kind of almost constant flow of paranoid advice. You've got to realize they don't trust us. They don't trust me. They won't trust you. It doesn't matter what you say or what you do. look, we can only look out for ourselves. We'll work with them for now. Yes, we'll work with them for now, but that's all we'll do. We won't commit to anything, etc., etc.
Out of interest, can I hear any of this mentally as well as in person, via the cobweb, or is it all literally just his verbal?
You can't hear it via the cobweb. The kind of unseen pseudo hive mind that links many Malkavians together, but I would say it's reasonable that you would start to be influenced by it. Not overly so. He's not turning you into a mini Gilbert Duane, but while he's talking, he makes more sense than
he already
would otherwise. Sure. Yeah. In his presence, you certainly feel more paranoid as a result of his presence. Arthur, you head out to the entrance. There's a number of ghouls standing there, presumably the personal ghouls of kind of the elders. Helena said that you wouldn't have any trouble identifying her ghoul, and only one of them stands out to any significant degree. And oh boy, does he stand out. You would estimate him to be just a scooch under 7 foot tall, shaved head, incredibly well-muscled guy, like ludicrously so, in a very tight, almost tuxedo-like suit. Extraordinarily expensive-looking suit. And he's just kind of calmly stood there, waiting, eyes slowly sort of panning around, looking at every individual. But if Helena said that he'll stand out, that's definitely the guy.
Stands out. Yeah, I will approach him and Helena said she'd like to speak to you in the conference room. If you'll follow me.
He grunts and walks along behind you.
I'll lead him back to the conference room.
He's carrying like a very old-fashioned big handbag. You know, like a big material one with massive clasps, like from the early 20th
bag.
Yeah, from the early 20th century, like a very lush floral design on it.
Mary Poppins bag.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And he kind of walks in, and Helena looks up and says, "Oh, yes. Attend me, please, my dear." He walks over and kind of unclasps the bag and gets out from it a very expensive, although, I don't know how familiar Arthur would be with china and porcelain items, but a very expensive and delicate-looking porcelain cup with very fancy floral designs around it, places it down extraordinarily gently on the tabletop on a saucer, and then takes off his jacket, rolls up his sleeve, reaches into the bag, gets out a very large syringe, pushes it in, connects a tube, and drains a cupful of his blood into the ceramic teacup, takes it away, binds himself up, etc. And Helena, as she's there, kind of tapping her teeth with the pen as she ponders on this note she's writing, just
out of sheer politeness, I don't roll my eyes. That's far too dramatic.
Sure. Why don't we cut back to our other two so we can shuffle these the elders off now? Thank you, Steve, and bring on Justin and Pierre. Let's not go massively to town role-playing this hunt. I think we can just roll for it. It's probably going to be quite a challenging one. A, because it's not your usual type of hunting. B, because you're not entirely familiar with the area. And C, because you're being careful about the Inquisition stuff, right? The monitoring, the surveillance. So I think it's going to be quite challenging here. So if you're just looking generally around the street, I'd say it would be a fair roll to make. And you know what I'm going to let you do? I'm going to let you share successes. You're only going to find one potential victim donor, but I will let you share your success pool, right? So I would say that what we're going for here is wits plus streetwise, and I'm looking for a total of 5 successes between you. So, yeah.
Cool.
That's exciting.
3.
Ooh, that's a good start.
5.
Oh, ho, ho!
I rolled 3 dice as well. That's what I rolled.
Wow, you rolled 2
2
one
criticals.
success and 2 10s. Is that
That's what I rolled.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, I'm almost tempted to let you take two people for that, but I won't. So, so what? You know what I will.
Dog.
You know what I will. You know what I actually will do. Here we go. As you're roaming the streets on the outer edge of Mayfair, you come across a young gentleman in like a suit with no tie, who's kind of has wandered into an alleyway. And as you pass, you can see him kind of like stumble behind the dumpster and start fumbling while with one hand against the wall. Prime sneak and vamp, right?
If anything, we're doing him a favor. This is more dignified than what he was about to do.
If anyone has played Vampire Bloodlines, I'm literally picturing the easy guy to drink from behind the asylum, right? And for the 3 of you out there who are like, yeah, that was for you. So yeah, there's a guy just there. And you know what, Justin? You can hear, as he's kind of knocking things aside, you can hear a little startled squeak down the alleyway.
Well, I who am proceeding with is it the Silence of Death? What is it called? The Silence of Death. Creep up behind them. What is this little squeak? Can I see what it is?
Yeah, there's some rats down the end of the alleyway.
Oh, great. I mean,
gave you something extra. It's up to you what you do with it.
Well, given that I rolled 5 of these successes, and although Austin did an excellent job, I think I'm first on the scene. And I'm not wanting a repeat of the previous incident in an alleyway. I'll take the lead, and all I need is a sip. So I just need 1 point.
I'm not like. Let me just refresh my knowledge of feeding, though, because you can't sip from a human. Maximum non-harmful drink from a human. Yeah, so you could both sip for 1 without potentially causing him harm. So,
but I'm happy to point out the rats to Oscar if he likes.
I very much doubt Oscar will be able to catch any rats to feed from without animal ken. Or
I can't catch any rats to feed from either, so I'd rather feed from this much more easy human. Anyway, so if that's all right, given this guy seems pretty distracted,
sure.
Hopefully, it's not too difficult to accost him.
Yes? Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would ask, do we want to know what Oscar is doing with this? Because I know you rolled more, but you did have a combined pool, and just saying this is how it's being divided.
I want that to happen.
Sure,
that's what I want. It's not what's happening.
Perhaps rather than just silently walking into the alleyway, there could be an exchange between you about what's going to happen.
That guy, he's asking for it. I mean, like, he's extremely vulnerable. Let's.
If anything, this is going to be more dignified than what he was about to do.
Let's just go for him.
I'm already gone. Mandrel's ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I don't think you don't need to roll to feed from him or anything. He's very drunk and very occupied with micturating. Mandrel, you can sink your fangs in and drink from him however much you want. Are you just taking the least harmful option? Are you taking
a single point, which is all I need?
A single sip. That's absolutely fine. Oscar, are you kind of lurking behind and waiting your turn?
I am like kind of impatient. I'm like tapping my foot. I'm
sure.
Like I really want. I'm so hungry, actually.
Sure. In that case, Mandrel finishes up, and Oscar, you can start drinking from the gentleman. Are you just taking a sip as well?
So my choices are a sip or trying to go for 2.
Yeah,
okay?
I mean, it's probably going to be maximum non-harmful drink from a human is 2. So I figure both of you taking 1 is the maximum non-harmful drink.
The thought crosses my mind to like drain this guy dry. But I think I just think back to the first time, and I am like
Sure,
self-control. Okay, just 1, and
sure, absolutely. Well, in that case, but you did say that it crosses your mind.
It definitely
so
does.
can
It
you give me a
absolutely
willpower roll?
Yep, sure.
I only want 1 success because I think you're not horribly hungry, and I think that your instincts to drain him dry will be mitigated by your memory of your first feeding.
What is my willpower roll? Sorry.
It's whatever your willpower is.
Just that many dice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 5, right?
I'm keeping watch during this time at the
Sure.
opening of the alley onto the street.
You're not taking a gamble on those rats. Great, that's fine.
I drink from him, and I kind of hold, keep my composure.
Sure. As you kind of he kind of goes limp in your arms as you you stop biting. You have to kind of lower him down to the alleyway where he just kind of leans back against the dumpster, and he's just making an odd but not kind of horribly unhealthy or indicative of anything, just a kind of odd noise. It's not a death rattle or anything like that. It's just he's the mixture of the kiss and the alcohol. He's out of it completely.
Sure. Did I get any sense of the resonance of?
No. That's there was no particular resonance in his blood.
Yeah.
Is that the
standard drunk dude?
Is that the first time Oscar has fed on a person since the alleyway?
I think so, right? Because otherwise it's just been blood bags.
Yep. That went well.
Time to be moving on.
Sirens. No.
Yeah, I sound totally surprised. I'm like, I can do this. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Sort of behind the dumpster a bit more. And
so the rats go unmolested, and you leave this alleyway, head out, and nearby Mandrill is kind of the entrance to the tunnel systems in Mayfair, or one of the many entrances. So I'm assuming you're kind of trying to scooch down there and lead you both back towards Down Street through these maintenance tunnels.
Yeah, if there's a way to do so without attracting too much attention, then that's what
I think so. Yeah, I think it's late enough at night, and I'm not gonna make you roll for finding the right maintenance tunnel or whatever. Once you're down there, though, we did say you had a fairly good mental map of it, so I'm not going to ask for too many successes. But if you could give me, I'd say a resolve plus. Ooh, can you remember what roll we used originally when you were looking at when you were making the rolls for scouting out those tunnels?
I can't quite remember. I think it may have
technology or science or something.
Yeah, I think it was something.
No, you're right. It was science engineering.
Okay, I think that's fair enough, because you're basically, it's not like you've scouted these tunnels, it's just you think they follow a logical pattern because you're aware of how they're put together. So I think it's fine for you to give us a resolve plus science roll, and you can use your engineering on it as well. And I just want 2 successes for you to make your way back without kind of getting lost or anything like that.
I get 4.
Fantastic. You know exactly where you're going, and you head back with a fair amount of alacrity. As you are walking along these maintenance tunnels, several of which they have kind of like older sewer works and stuff leading off from the side of them. It's a real warren down here, but of course that probably makes you very happy. But as you're walking along, Oscar, can you give me one of those lovely sense the unseen rolls, please?
Sure. So that is wits plus Auspex, which is 4. 1 success.
Okay, that's enough. As you're walking past a particular offshoot that looks like it goes like an old brickwork sewer, you just get a little, someone walks over your grave, you know?
Sure. I've had that feeling before. Hey, Mandrill, did you... There's something weird about this thing over here, this offshoot. Hey, Mandrill, don't walk off without me.
Well,
did you get that
these
feeling?
tunnels. I can't tell. I can't.
The tunnel goes very dark very quickly. I don't mean it turns dark. I mean from the moment you look down it you can barely see 10 feet down it.
If I'm used to being around lots of people who use obfuscate a lot, do I at least have a familiar kind of feeling of that feeling? No. Okay, sure.
That would kind of obviate.
Yeah, no,
right?
I agree. Well, I might like just quietly whisper something like Jack.
A very quiet, hushed voice from inside the tunnel says, "Not Jack, but the fledgling is astute."
Okay. Does Oscar hear that too?
Yeah.
Who's there?
I bring greetings from the King of Shadows.
Well, we receive them gladly.
He is happy that you know of the compact and happy to allow you the tunnels and sewers of Mayfair as your domain. But please, anything below you or anything beneath London, not otherwise claimed, is his.
That's very understandable.
Good to know.
If you need to traverse it or use it for any reason, it can be negotiated. I am sure you will respect his kingdom as he respects your domain.
Very much so.
How would we get in contact?
Take steps into his kingdom, a few only, and speak out loud.
If the king is ever in need of any refurbishments, I am a descendant of Zelios and would gladly lend a hand.
An intriguing offer. He will let you know. Do not worry. He will hear you. He will see you. You hear the sound of pattering footsteps, retreating.
Well, at least be glad we're not dead, Oscar. Eh?
I'm getting more and more glad of that every day. Let's hurry on, shall we?
That's true. There's no need to hurry on, Oscar. Again, if we were going to die again, we'd have done so. We're perfectly safe.
Yeah, again, I feel like everyone who I meet needs to learn what reassurance is.
Oscar, something brushes past your legs.
Oh, what the hell was that?
Just
It
relax,
is a
Oscar.
black cat.
Okay. Oh, okay. It's just a cat. It's just a cat.
Cat.
Sorry, my nerves are a bit on edge.
Interesting, yes.
Oh my god.
King of Shadows. Yeah, I mean, Oscar, you haven't seen Sebastian Marley before.
No.
So you're can we have just the image of Sebastian Marley up just to bring out, like, that, you know, if you suddenly realize that this being existed, perhaps how Oscar would react to that. Mandrill, you know who Sebastian is. He's your clan leader on this mission. But yeah, if we could have Sebastian's picture up, Steve.
No, I am very freaked out. I thought it was just a cat, and then it was a double jump scare.
Well, we can hardly be surprised that there are still Nosferatu in the tunnels of London.
Sebastian kind of who emerged from, I don't want to say decloaked because that sounds unnecessarily Star Trek.
Steps out of the shadows.
Steps out of whatever obfuscation he was in, and kind of he stands behind you, Mandrill, and just rests his long claw, not threateningly, almost a mixture between friendliness and maybe possessiveness. Rests like a long claws, like over the back of your head as he leans into you and says, "Tunnels busier than underground."
Yes, lots of comings and goings. But this is good.
Not as expected. City was meant to be empty.
Oh.
Where there is strength underground, at least, you know, we can be assured that our ways of seeking solace underground are sensible.
Marley kind of slowly and oddly nods and then reaches up his other claw and kind of drapes it across your cheek. None of this is in like a romantic way or anything like that. It's just an odd affectation, and it suddenly occurs to you it's like he's stroking a cat. And he says, "Tell me of any further interactions with this King of Shadows, yes?"
Secrets are always there to be shared, one for another.
He turns and like reaches out to Oscar, and he doesn't quite reach you, but he definitely kind of gestures over your face with those long talons and says, "Fledgling warlock, you stay with Mandrill. She will keep you safe. Clan Nosferatu will keep you safe. Yes, yes, yes." He turns around and starts lurching off through the into one of the side sewer tunnels. The cat sort of meows at you briefly and then quite happily wanders off behind him.
It'll be Grendel next, and then we'll really be scared.
Wait, there's someone who's scarier than that person.
That's not the scary one.
Right.
Oh dear.
I'll bear this in mind.
I mean, Oscar, you know, I'm surprised that you're not more scared down here with me.
No, you're a friend, Mandrill, right?
I am just as much of a friend as anyone to you in Tremere clan, certainly. But let's be moving on. Let's get back to the rest of the country.
let's get going. Like,
but don't go too fast. You'll trip over something in the dark.
No, just maybe we could just pick up the pace a little bit.
So, the rest of your journey back to Down Street goes uneventfully. Fortunately,
even the smallest rat is like, I'm sort of
yeah, sure. And you
lots of attention to.
You kind of emerge onto one of the platforms. Ahead of you, you can see kind of the group of elders, apart from Wynne, are kind of still here, and you can see. Well, actually, scrap that. There's no sign of Marley, but you can see Astrid Thomas sort of waiting impatiently by the entranceway, and you see Alex escorting Gilbert Duane kind of up to her, and they are kind of exchanging brief words there. And you also see, why not? You see Arthur there as well. Arthur's probably wandered out from where Helena is. Why not? So we can have everyone back together for the first time in what 10 hours? We can have everyone back. Oh no, it's a disaster. There we are. No. Yeah, nothing in particular has happened in Down Street since these guys have come back. Is it safe to say, Mandrill and Oscar, that you'll be wandering over to this general group?
Yeah, I think I might say one thing to Oscar beforehand, which is something to the effect of, Oscar, Nosferatu, Ventru, we all keep our secrets, and there's no reason to tell everyone else absolutely everything about everything. My clan knows about this person. You can tell your clan about this person, but information is to be traded, not just relinquished.
Okay, you can trust me, Mandrill.
As you approach, Astrid Thomas turns around. Let's have Astrid's picture up, shall we? Just as a reminder, she doesn't need to stay up a long time. Just as a reminder, she turns around to look at her. She's kind of medium height, medium build, very long, slightly tangled curly hair, very pale skin. That's almost kind of like a very simplistic ball gown that she wears. She turns around, strides straight up to Oscar, puts a hand under your chin, tilts your head up to one side, to the other. Fine. Give him it. A ghoul steps forward, her ghoul, who's dressed in kind of almost kind of like looks almost like a policeman, like with just a button-down shirt, slim tie, and a jacket and trousers. Policeman, but without the helmet or the hat, and reaches inside, passes you a book. Oh. Out of all of them, that was the only one worth having, worth knowing anything about. It will give you some small information. Consider it a gift from Clan Tremere.
Thank you very much.
Just shape yourself up. Yes? Perhaps then we'll have some time to invest in your training. She turns on her heel, just walks out. The book is from your shop.
Yep. Absolutely. I say ineffectually at her back.
Oscar, you look like a common Nosferatu, all covered in dust
Wait, that's not an insult for you.
This is Vampire the Masquerade. Oscar gets dressed down edition.
So every week.
Yeah. From now until the foreseeable future.
I think when Oscar diablerizes somebody, then we'll take him seriously.
Yeah, that's how that tends to work.
As this exchange is happening, and maybe the four of you are catching up a bit on the events, so we don't have to like role play, tell them to each other. God, who'd want to do role playing? Helena's extremely large, muscular ghoul walks out of the conference chamber and kind of over to your group. Gilbert, Astrid, several of the other ghouls, all basically everyone but Sebastian, Helena, and her ghoul, all gone now. He walks over to your group, takes a note from the pocketbook that Helena was writing in, rolls it up, passes it to Alex.
Why, thank you, good sir. I'll open it up with a flourish and read it.
With an Eastern European accent that is unidentifiable enough that I don't have to be held responsible for it. He says she wants it taken to the roof now.
But of course. Is the ghoul or is there a ghoul nearby who will, one of our ghouls that can take it up to the other ghoul?
I think he expects you to do it.
Alex will refill it and walk calmly and pleasantly up to the roof, taking time.
Sure. The ghoul turns to Oscar. Sorry, Oscar. And says, "She will see you now. You are the warlock, yes?"
Yes. Oh wow.
With
You are
me.
quite tall. And then I follow him.
He leads you through to the chamber where Helena is. You haven't seen it. You haven't seen her before, but it's the same as how I described earlier. If we can have the picture of Helena up again, and you know what? Let's get rid of Justin, John, and Neill while we're doing it. Let's have a nice little personal session between Oscar and Helena here. She stands up as you kind of takes a sip from the cup as you come in and stands up and says, "Oh, Oscar Kane."
Yes. Pleased to meet you.
She walks over and kind of offers a hand to you in a very kind of formal, polite way.
Oh, I take it and shake it. I'm so happy to have somebody who likes shaking hands.
She shakes it and kind of taps you on the shoulder and says, "Please, come here and sit next to me. We just have to have a quick talk about the safety here of this mission. We haven't had a chance to yet, and I just wanted to share strategies with you."
Okay, yes.
Okay. She leads you over, sits you down, and kind of takes another little kind of china cup and pours some blood from her cup into yours and says, "A little gauche, I know, but please."
Oh, thank you very much. I take some of the thing and
Sure.
sip
it back. Let's not get fussy about amounts of blood. You can drop your hunger by another one.
Okay.
She watches you kind of drink it and place the... Are you taking care with the cup?
Do I notice how fancy it is?
You definitely notice how fancy they are, yes.
Yeah, because I am an antiquarian, so maybe I would.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take care.
She gives quite a warm smile as you kind of carefully place it back on the table and then looks up at you and straight into your eyes. Can you give me an, I believe it's intelligence plus resolve roll, please?
Okay.
The difficulty is 5.
Well, this is likely to succeed. Intelligence plus resolve, so 2.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay, that's actually 7 dice. 3 successes.
That's not enough. So she leans forward, and all of a sudden, you are incredibly captivated by what this small but very strong and sensible and kind of leaderly, noble woman has to say to you. She leans forward and says, "It is absolutely imperative, Oscar, and I hope you are listening carefully, that if at any point you are compromised or captured or taken in any way by the Second Inquisition, an agent linked to them, anyone working with them, if at any point you are encouraged, intimidated, persuaded, or tortured to give away the position of your coterie mates or any other vampire within the realm of London, that you immediately cease giving them any information and provoke them or move yourself or direct yourself to your own final death." Have I made myself clear? She absolutely has.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
She leans forward, pats you on the cheek slightly and says, "I'm so glad you agree." Can we move Pierre and Helena off, please, and bring Alex on? Alex, you are up on the roof of Down Street. It's not a large building, 2 or 3 stories, I think, from what we've seen of the pictures. An old brick building with a shop at the base of it and the entrance into Down Street. Up here, there's quite a pleasant view over kind of Mayfair and the surrounding areas of London, kind of the large towers and skyscrapers in the distance of the city centre. And there's a ghoul up here who's kind of quite bored, kind of leaning out on the edge of the, kind of barely notices you as you come up, honestly. Kind of takes you in, realizes you are someone who's meant to be there, so it's fine, and goes out. Back to looking over. You have the cage with the pigeon there. Are you going to take your time to make sure it's secured, or?
Well, I was going to hand it to the ghoul to do it for me.
Oh, sure, that's fine. The ghoul kind of looks at you and goes, right, yeah. Takes it, opens the cage. The pigeon hops out and kind of, it doesn't exactly present its leg, but waits perfectly calmly. Kind of tucks the message into a little ring, and it...
Alex was standing at a reasonable distance away just in case it got spooked by them being a vampire. Said,
Sure.
What a delightful bird. Thank you so much for your assistance. Unneeded as though it seems to have been. But thank you ever so much regardless.
That's quite all right, sir. Nice
Have
night.
a wonderful evening. Oh, yes, indeed. And a wonderful view. It is lovely to be home again.
As you turn and look out over the city of London, everything goes a bit odd. It slowly gets darker until most of the surrounding buildings around you kind of fade away. And in your field of view, all that you can see are the towers of London, standing cold and silent under bright stars. A tinge of red starts on the northern horizon, and your field of view, it's like you don't feel like you're flying over towards the towers, but your vision moves in closer to them. A twisting and roiling blood red sun starts to rise over you, with tendrils of vitae reaching through the unimaginable gulfs towards you and towards the city. You feel like the sun can feel your presence and has chosen to shine down upon you to nourish you and teach you. The vitae from the tendrils rises up as the sun dwindles and withers and quickly swamps all the smaller towers before only the strongest and tallest remain, glittering in an ocean of blood under the piercing stars. A chorus of voices cries out at once, maybe in blissful joy, maybe in ravening hunger, maybe in abject terror. You smile. That's our session for the week. Everyone back in, please.
That wasn't ominous at all.
God, no. Why would it be?
Delightful. Delightful.
That's great.
As usual, our after session, we have a little bit on here for any comments and questions you might have. We're happy to answer and talk about them all. Just pop them in chat and Steve will pop them up in here for us to talk about. While that's going on, let me just kind of recap a bit what I said right at the beginning of the session. So next week will be the final week that this runs on a Monday evening. After that, we'll be moving to Tuesday evening, still at 8 o'clock GMT, still on Twitch, still here. We've got all the social media and Patreon and YouTube down below. Go check them out if you're interested. We also have another series we run, the dark fantasy setting of Simba Room. And that runs on Wednesdays, again, 8 o'clock GMT. We'd love for you to come join us on there. Am I missing anything? I don't think I am. I think that's all the blurb. So yeah, flash anything up once it's in there, Steve. And in the meantime, did everyone enjoy that? Everyone had fun in that session?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. I feel like we're starting to move into my kind of territory of vampire now, of just a riotous cacophony of characters and politics bouncing off each other. Is the conference room just a particularly well scrubbed maintenance tunnel? It certainly could give that impression, but in point of fact, and there'll be more detail on this to come soon, because everyone, but particularly Justin, is working on a map of Down Street to present to you guys, and that'll be a fun thing to look at. But it is effectively, literally a conference room used by Winston Churchill and his government in World War II, because Down Street was a bunker that they used. So it is literally the remains of that, although it's certainly as clean as your average maintenance tunnel. So, yeah.
And now the occupants are even more prestigious.
But less horrific. Am I right? Yeah.
Not that we mean to imply that
Controversial
Winston
takes.
Churchill had terrible housekeeping. Just that, you know, it's been a
Just
while.
terrible morals.
Moving quickly through this English focus.
It's a hill I'll die on. It's a hill I'll die on.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other comments about tonight from the group, or questions from outside or anything like that? Any characters that are sticking out for you guys so far?
I'm seeing Astrid Thomas being a bit of a...
That's
I
who
really
Oscar's
like
going to diabolise. You've got to pick out the diablerized victims early on so that you don't get attached to them.
Yeah, I'm sensing for anyone familiar with Simbaroom that she's the Keller of vampire, right? She's the one everyone loves to hate.
Yeah.
She seems eminently reasonable, at least as reasonable as our own Tremere, who seems to rant and rave and jump on people from a great distance. It seems well within keeping for the Tremere.
What can I
Short
say?
fuses.
Go big or go home.
Oh dear.
I think the overall sense and moral from this session, and perhaps the last one as well, is for a city scoured of kindred.
There's a lot going on.
There's
There's
a lot of
seems to
kindred.
be an awful lot going on awfully quickly.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
I did like
No, it's
how
good.
her main argument for, you know, or her main defense against the fall of London would have been, well, if there'd been more kindred there, then
Sure.
maybe the good kindred.
Look, the Tremere have had a rough time, you know.
Yeah.
I love the argument. If only we'd been here, we could have protected London. Meanwhile, our own place was destroyed, and we protected that to the best of our abilities. No, it would have been different. Would have been different.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
She's
dear.
great. You love the section with the layers of hiding Nosferatu. Yeah, well, you know what? Though, isn't everyone making the assumption that the King of Shadows is a Nosferatu? Well,
Yeah, I didn't think he was.
Well, I'm just saying, if it's lots of tunnels, there's going to be some Nosferatu down there, isn't it?
Sure.
But I do like the idea of little nesting, like Russian nesting dolls of
Dolls of
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu, yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
like I sense the easy one to detect, and then only to be blindsided by.
I like to think that Jack was just standing behind you the entire time. saying,
There was yet another layer.
Given his behaviour in our offline chronicle, it does seem likely, doesn't it? He has previous in that, albeit not on the stream. On that note, thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed that. Free to come back and watch us next week, or check out our VODs on YouTube. Check out Simproom on Wednesdays, and take care of each other out there. We'll see you all soon. Goodbye. Goodbye.